Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification so you're notified anytime we put new content on. We've got videos going up daily, lots of great guests, including today's guest. He's a broadcaster, a political commentator, publisher. It's Mr. Iain Dale. Hi Iain, how are you?
Hello, not too bad, thank you. Enjoying lockdown, bizarrely.
Are you?
I never thought. Yeah, I've been. This is day 71 for me. 'Cause I'm a type 2 diabetic, so I've got to be a little bit careful. And I literally have hardly been out of the house. I think I've been up to the corner shop about 5 times, and that's it. But I'm broadcasting every night on LBC from my bedroom, which is where I am now. Shut the curtains because it's don't let the light in too much. But yeah, I'm actually quite enjoying it, which I feel a little bit guilty about because I know a lot of people are really having a tough time. But I'm not going to pretend. I'm actually quite enjoying it.
Yeah, I know. It's not in a weird way. It's nice when it comes to the weekends. There's no, for me particularly, there's no pressure to do stuff. Feel like when before we could go anywhere, we felt like we had to do something so we didn't waste a nice weekend. But now we can't. So it's just like,
and you just catch up on things that you haven't done for like 5 or 10 years around the house. And I've got 2 dogs. They quite like having me around all the time. So yeah, I can't deny it hasn't been any kind of hardship for me. And not going on the train to London every day is an absolute boost.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, you save quite a bit on that as well. The train and the car park at the station and things like that. Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, for me as well. And nowadays anyone can do their job really, as long as most of them, if it's an office-based job, they've got a computer and a decent internet connection. So yeah, I think it'll be the new norm now. So we'll see what happens. But yeah. Anyway, and obviously the only downside is, with obviously what we're wearing is there's no football really, although we haven't lost for a number of months now. So Davy Moyes has got the longest unbeaten run.
It's really weird because I haven't actually missed it. I mean, I know that's a really weird thing to say for somebody who runs a West Ham blog, and I've kind of learned to live without football. I think this has been a season of frustrations anyway, and I also don't want the season to restart because I just don't see that it's fair to restart it. It's almost like a different sport if you haven't got a crowd there as well. I think if you watch any of the Bundesliga games, it's like watching a village football match, which is entertaining in its own way, I suppose, but it's just not the same. So I'd rather just finish the season here, not have any relegation, allow the top 3 clubs, if they want to play playoffs, fine, but have the top 2 clubs or 3 clubs from the Championship come up. You have 24 or 25 teams in the Premier League next season, and then relegate 5 of them. Now, to me, that seems a really sensible solution. But of course, the Premier League doesn't really do sensible, does it?
No, exactly. I mean, the way obviously the Scottish League, they sort of stopped, didn't they? And now they're trying to do a 14-14-14 proposal. Hearts did, because obviously they went down. And I think that's the fairest way. I totally agree. Everyone moves up, everyone bumps up a couple. And yeah, it just seems fair. Whatever happens, whether it does go on, which looks like it will do, or whether they go to an unweighted point system to conclude the season, or a weighted point system, you'll have a whole sort of Sheffield United, West Ham again.
If they do that, we're stuffed, aren't we? If they do that, I think
we're stuffed if they go weighted. If they go weighted, we're stuffed. If they go unweighted, which they did in Ligue 1, and I think it was a Belgium league, then we're okay. We stay up on goal difference. Right. It's the West Ham way.
You know full well that whatever they do, it'll be to stuff us, because that's what they always do. For some reason, even though I don't know what you find, a lot of my friends treat West Ham as a sort of second team, but in the upper echelons of football, they hate us.
Yeah. No, it's true. I know what you mean. And yeah, it's a toss-up, basically. It's a coin toss between us and Bournemouth. They're going to go with Bournemouth, aren't they? They just are, just because of who they are. Anyway, well, let's not worry about that. Let's look back, and that's the idea of this channel. The idea is we go around and we interview people of all different ages, all over the world, all West Ham fans, about their memories, and also the players that meant something to them, or maybe didn't mean something to them. It's we've got a few videos come up which are more anti-players, which will be quite interesting. But in terms of you, Ian, sort of, what would you say would be sort of your fondest West Ham memories? Obviously, been a fan for many, many years. Are there any that stick out, or you might have met some of your boyhood heroes or something like that?
I think in terms of games, there were two that stick out for me.
Yeah.
One at Upton Park, well, two at Upton Park and one not. Let's start with the one that wasn't, and that would be the 2006 Cup final in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Which, whenever I talk about it, I get quite emotional, and I can feel myself getting emotional now, because to me, even though we lost it, we really didn't in many ways. It's the only game where I've come out of the stadium and didn't feel as though we'd lost, because it was such an amazing game. You kind of knew, because it was West Ham, if we went 2-0 up, well, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But even there were so many points in that I thought, no, we are going to win this. We are going to win this. And you can't really, I mean, that last minute goal, people want to blame Scaloni, they want to blame whoever. Actually, it was just one of those fluke moments. Yes, it was a skillful moment, but let's not pretend it was a bit of a fluke.
Yeah.
And I can remember because there was a bit of a build up to that, in that I obviously had a season ticket. But my friend who I sat with had a season ticket since 1958. He saw Bobby Moore's debut, can you believe? And he hadn't got a ticket for the cup final. And being the soft idiot that I am, I said, well, you must have mine. And as I said the words, I thought, you bloody idiot, why are you doing this? So anyway, he did have my ticket, and I wrote about it on the West Ham Till I Die site. And I think it was Dennis Campbell, who's the health editor of The Guardian. He thought it was sort of wrong that I wouldn't be able to go, and somehow he got me a ticket. So I was sitting on my own, and I didn't have that sort of community thing that goes on in. But I can remember walking out of the stadium afterwards, and obviously I was gutted. But Liverpool fans were coming up to me and sort of saying, "Oh mate, you were robbed. We shouldn't have won that." Blah blah blah. And I've never had that at any football match ever since. So I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Liverpool ever since then. And whatever happens at the end of the season, I hope they are awarded the championship, because they completely deserve it. So that's one match that I will remember forever. I think two others will, I mean, and I'm sure everyone says this one, but the last match at Upton Park, I mean, who's ever going to forget that? And it was really emotional, because we all have our pre-match routines and post-match routines, and the whole time I was thinking, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to see that person again. I mean, I used to leave my car with some guys on Barking Road. There was a sort of garage unit there, and they would wash it. And I'd been doing it for 20 years. And I can remember when I bought a really expensive new car once, and I told a friend that, oh no, I just leave it with this group of 10 black guys on Barking Road. And they looked at me in a slightly racist manner, it has to be said. And I said, no. Look, mate, if they were going to nick the car, they would have done it before now. And they really became friends. They would listen to me on the radio whenever I was on the television. They would say, "Oh, I saw you on the television," and we just built up this kind of weird friendship. And I can remember sort of, see, I'm tearing up again, leaving my car with them for the last time and picking it up, and thinking, I'll never see you again. And I haven't. And going to Ken's Cafe every match, and really sort of making some good. I mean, I met a lot of famous people in that. I mean, it was just a real congregation of area for people to congregate before the match. Carol, who was the sort of matriarch of the whole place, actually, I have kept in touch with her a bit. Billy, her grandson, who was always there serving. I miss that now, and I was all in favour of the move to the Olympic Stadium, but I do miss those kind of pre-match routines, because it's not the same there. Now, it was never going to be, and it is invidious actually to compare the two places. And I'm one of the few people I think actually really quite like the Olympic
I love it.
Stadium
I
still.
love it. Yeah.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's interesting. I'm
Yeah.
glad I found someone else who does. And I really don't buy into this thing that, it's got no atmosphere. It's got a great atmosphere when we're winning and playing well, just as Upton Park has. Upton Park, when we were playing badly, was not a pleasant place to be.
Not at all. And they would even more so, I'd say.
Well, I think so. And it's a bit like, you get to a certain age, and the decade that you grew up in was always the halcyon period. Oh, things aren't like they were in the good old days. Well, people have got a bit like that about the Olympic Stadium. That people say, oh, it's not a football stadium. It is a football stadium because football is played in it. It's a bowl. It's a slightly different shape to other football stadiums, but you look in Europe, and there are lots of football stadiums that are a similar shape. And I don't think that it's beyond the wit of architects to make that, over the course of the next 10 years, much more like a traditional football stadium, sort of put in the corners a bit. You can add in seats. I think, I'd like to see West Ham actually own the place rather than rent it. I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. But you could easily take out the collapsible seats and regrade them. You could make them a lot less steep and have the seats nearer the pitch if you really wanted to. And I think if we're successful, that will come, because look, on a normal match day, that it takes, is it 60,000 now? It can go up
60,
to 66, I think, or maybe even a little bit beyond that. Well, if we get in the top 6 ever, we're going to need all those seats, because you can't trust the attendance numbers that you get at the moment, because we can all see that there are empty spaces. But most matches are well over 50,000 there. And remember, when we were at Upton Park, few people thought we would ever be able to get anywhere near filling it for more than maybe 5 or 6 games a season.
Yeah, totally. And I'm with you, Ian. I think you miss the romance. You miss because it was like so close to Green Street, and they're same with all modern sort of stadiums. I think the same true with Wembley. Wembley I find very sterile, and that's why I loved when we went to Cardiff, because you were similar to Green Street and Upton Park. You were in the middle. The Millennium Stadium was bang in the middle, and you had the pubs, but it is what you said. It is sort of it's more of a, it's an impressive stadium. From a logistics side, and I don't have a problem getting there. Upton Park, if that district line went down, you are buggered. You are absolutely buggered. And so it's very well connected. In terms of the infrastructure. The old girl, bless her, was falling apart. I still had like a tape deck, there and stuff. So it's like there's so much more. It's just a lot more slicker in terms of the operation, and that's where we have to be seen to be there. Anyway, we can talk about the London Stadium all day. Let's talk about your 11, Ian. So, as I said, what we're doing, we're talking to lots of people, getting their 11, their Hammers 11. So we try and keep it to a 4-4-2 if we can, but I'm happy to move things around for you. The only rule we like to the rule we like to keep is you have to be alive to have seen them play. Okay, so the reason being is otherwise everyone would just.
I have given this a lot of thought.
Brilliant.
And I picked one or two that people will be surprised by, purely because I just want to talk about them. And I first went to West Ham in, I think, 74, 75. I went to see a home match against Chelsea, which we lost 1-0. Alan Kirbishley was making his debut in that match. And I can remember the headlines on the back page of the Daily Express sort of saying, "This is the next Trevor Brooking." Well, they were wrong there. But, and it was, I can remember my uncle lived in Epping, so we came in on the tube and walked down the tube station, and 11, 12 years old. And I came from a little village in North Essex, never been to London before, and my eyes were on stalks. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was almost sort of hanging on to my dad for dear life. And it was very, very, very bizarre. And we were standing in the bottom of the West Stand, I think. Yes, we were. and it was an amazing experience, and I was hooked
Yeah.
from then on. Now, I didn't go to many more matches in the 70s, hardly went to a match in the 80s. It was only really at the beginning of the 90s I went regularly. And I don't know why I didn't in the 80s, but I still only went very occasionally, and only if somebody took me. Which I look back on, I think, well, why didn't you go? It's bizarre.
Yeah.
So it was only really in the promotion season, what was it, 91, 92, that I started going regularly and got a season ticket. And I've suffered ever since.
Exactly. I know. So you've got quite a nice spread of decades to pick, which is good. Okay, right. So who's going to go in goal for the Dale 11 then? Who's between the sticks?
Well, it's actually quite a difficult one, this, because we have had some really good goalkeepers, but we've also had some pretty average or mediocre. And I in the end, I've gone for Robert Green.
Yeah.
Because I think overall he was very consistent. He made one or two mistakes, but you felt confident with him, and he inspired confidence in the back four. And let's face it, over the past few seasons, that hasn't happened all the time, has it? I mean, Fabianski, he could come into the reckoning if he's here for another 2 or 3 years, because he is a signing that I didn't want. I don't like it when West Ham buy players that have been relegated.
Yeah.
Because there's usually a reason why they've been relegated.
Yeah.
And okay, there's the odd one that you think, actually, no, that wasn't their fault. And I was never that impressed with him at Arsenal. But all my Arsenal fans said that he was really good and he'd be a really good signing for us, and obviously he has been. But Robert Green, I always like players that come from Norwich, because they're kind of my second team. And West Ham, if you look at over the years, West Ham have bought some fabulous players from Norwich City: Dean Ashton, Graham Padden. I'm sure there's one or two others that, if I researched it, I could come up with.
Yeah.
But Robert Green was somebody that I really wanted us to sign, because we did need a good goalkeeper at that time. I was sorry that he left in the way that he did. I think now he probably regrets that, doing it in that way.
Yeah.
I think he had further business to do at Upton Park. And there was a rumour once he was going to come back, I think when he was about 38 or 39, and we were really light on goalkeepers, but it never actually happened. So yeah, he would be my number one goalkeeper. I mean, I don't know who I would say was number two. Probably McCloskey. I mean, in some ways, I feel guilty about not putting him number one, because I did see a lot of his games in the 90s, and he was phenomenal. And I got a real kick when he followed me on Twitter and DM'd me. That was a real highlight of my life. So I sort of feel I maybe should have picked him as number one, but I think you inevitably gravitate towards people that you've seen more recently, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And Green has a great shout. I think he's as you said, Mr. Reliable.
And he was an England goalkeeper.
He was, and he won the European Cup with Chelsea as well. So as he still talks about, quite funnily. And I just think he doesn't take himself particularly seriously as on his iterations on Twitter, and he's been on the Peter Crouch podcast and stuff. I like players who don't take themselves too seriously. I think that's something we've lost in the professional game recently. Everyone's very professional, but actually, there are normal people. Right? Okay, Greeno's in goal. Let's go left back then, Iain. Who we got left back?
Well, I've got Julian Dix. I mean, I suspect most people who do this say Julian Dix. I didn't see him play much in his first iteration, or did I?
You said a couple of years.
I must have done overlapped a couple of years. And when he came back, I think we were all just so delighted, even though we knew his injury record. Everyone wanted him back, and there aren't that many players who you would welcome back, but he was certainly one of them. And I just loved his commitment. I loved his penalties. I just thought I'm not sure that he was a brilliant influence in the dressing room, if I'm honest. I think he was one of those characters who probably wasn't a particular team player. I'd love to have seen him play for England, because I think if he'd established himself in the England team, it would have been very difficult to dislodge him, although he would have been up against Stuart Pearce, I suppose. So yeah, Julian Dix definitely left back.
Yep, good shout. And as I said, because obviously they've replayed the '96 Euros, haven't they, on ITV recently? And because obviously that was the big thing. He was going to probably be in that squad, and then apparently he had a haircut like you and mine, and he wasn't allowed in, and he would have taken a penalty.
His was out of choice.
I know, yeah, and he would similar for me at the moment, and he would have taken a penalty, I think, in the semi-finals if he played. So who knows?
Yeah, that's
anyway,
true.
Let's put Julian in. Okay, let's go right back. Let's go the other side. Who have you got right back then, Iain?
Well, here is one that everybody will think, what is he on about? Sebastian Schemmel.
No, he was in mine. Schemmel was in mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he had that one season where he could do no wrong. He was outstanding. And I like a right back who can overlap. I like a quick right back. I like a right back who can cross the ball properly. They do have to be able to defend. Yeah, absolutely. But he just looked the complete player. And then it was like the second album syndrome in his next season. I can't remember whether he got injured or whether he just completely lost form. Yeah. But he was never the same player again. And then he left, and I think he now runs a bar in Luxembourg, which has got some West Ham. I think it's called Upton Park or something. So he clearly loved his time at West Ham. But he was one of those players. And there's a couple of others I would put into this category. You think, well, they could have been really good.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why he wasn't. The other one, and I was tempted to put him in as well, but it would have been ridiculous, was Matthew Rush. Remember him?
Yeah, Matty Rush, yeah.
When he first came on the scene in the early to mid 1990s, I just thought, what a player. He had an amazing body. He just had the perfect midfielder's body, I thought. He was really powerful, could run into defence, could score long-range goals, good with his head. But again, he was another one that just drifted off. I was gutted when did he go to Norwich City or Northampton? One of the, I think
something
it was Norwich.
Like that, yeah.
But he never did anything anywhere else really.
No.
And he was one that I thought Harry Redknapp was manager at the time, and I just thought he's one of those players that Harry needs to really put his arm around and really get him to. And I remember having a discussion with Harry Redknapp when I interviewed him once about him, and he absolutely agreed with me. He said he was one of the most talented players he'd ever seen, but he just didn't cut it in the end. I thought they let him go. They let him go too quickly.
Yeah. Well, that's a great shout with Schemmel. I think we've got 3 Hammer of the Years in your first 3 picks. Yes. So obviously Schemmel famously won that, didn't he? His only decent season was. Right, let's go for centre back. So who's your first centre back then, Iain?
Well, again, everyone will pick Billy Bonds that saw him play.
Yeah.
I didn't see him play that often, but you couldn't really ignore him. I mean, he is now. He just represents West Ham in the same way that Trevor Brooking does. I remember I met him about 6 or 7 years ago. For some reason, and I hate doing this, but for some reason, I think it's because my dad came to a game. A Blackpool supporter he was. No, it must be longer ago than that. Anyway, for some reason we had tickets in the director's box. Get me. So we were in the sort of room beforehand, and Billy Bonds came in, and I can't remember if I walked up to him or whether I was probably introduced to him, because I hate walking up to people I don't know.
Yeah. And
we had a conversation, and I knew that he was quite a shy person, not a man of not many words. But it was a bit like, and here's another big name drop, it was a bit like when I met the Queen. I thought that she had no small talk whatsoever. But I talked to her for 5 minutes as if I'd known her for a long time. She was great company, and as he proved to be. Just a really, really lovely guy. And hadn't been treated well by the club in many, many ways. And I think that was the part of his coming back. And of course, then they named the stand after him. And he's just somebody that we all idolise. So, and he could play. Obviously, he played in midfield and central defence, a bit like Declan Rice. So he would definitely be first on the team sheet.
Yeah, great, good shout. And another Hammer of the Year, I believe. You get reckon up, I believe. Okay, so who's he going to partner in the centre defence? Who's Bonds are going to partner?
Alvin Martin.
Got nowhere.
Again, I mean, I can't think of any central defender that's played for West Ham since Rio Ferdinand left that you would consider to be in that defensive partnership. We've had some good central defenders, but we haven't had any great central defenders, I would say, over the last 20 years. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of anybody that you would be fit to lick Alvin Martin's boots or Billy Bond's boots. So it has to be Alvin Martin.
Yeah.
And I did see, obviously, he was quite right at the end of his career when I first got my season ticket. But he was a lovely player to watch. You had every confidence in him. You knew that if he tackled somebody, he would get the ball. And everybody looked up to him. All the other players looked up to him. And another Hammer of the Year.
Indeed, you're racking them up, Ian. That's good. There must be I think at the end, well, I'd like to, at the end, I'll probably offline. You've probably got a few thousand probably games under your belt when you sort of put all your team together as well, which is great. All right, Alvin's in. And again, I've said it before, I there's a few West Ham players that I call, adopted Cockneys, and Alvin's one of them, Scouser, they came from Liverpool, and still lives in the area. Just got it, and the fans loved him. And
that wonderful moment when David, his son, played against Chelsea, and that moment after the game, I think that will live with them for a long time.
Exactly, and obviously Alvin was the MC for when we did the the Billy Bond stand reveal, and. He's a great lad, Alvin. So yeah. Okay, let's go into midfield. Let's go left wing. Who have we got left wing? I probably can guess your left wing, but we'll have a go based on what you said before.
Well, my midfield, let's put it this way, is not a very hard tackling midfield.
But you've got that in defence. You're okay.
Well, I do, but I mean, I put. Well, you see, the problem is that at least three of these midfielders played on the left, so I would have to change the formation a little bit. I would pick Dimitri Payet, actually. Yeah. I mean, he is a terrible individual as a person. I think I hated the way that he left, because I remember when he signed, a friend of mine said he's not going to last very long. He's just somebody who's in it for the money. He'll leave as soon as he can. And I said, no. He actually gets what West Ham are trying to do. Yeah. And I really believe that. And I really felt that he was a different kind of player, not just in the way he played, but in his attitude. But boy, was I wrong. And I mean, we've had all sorts of players leave in very unhappy circumstances, but I think everyone felt completely let down by him. But we'll always remember him as a brilliant player, because
exactly.
There aren't many players when the ball goes down 5 yards outside the penalty area where you're confident that we're going to get a goal.
Yeah.
I mean, when Aaron Cresswell, bless him, he has scored one or two from that distance, but you've never got real confidence. That
expectation. Yeah. I know.
No. Solano actually was another one where you thought, well, he's got a chance.
Yeah.
But Payet was different class. And some of the trickery that he had was just unbelievable. And I just thought that he would be my West Ham player of this decade, I think.
I agree.
Just for his impact. So yeah, he goes on the left.
Exactly, that's a good shout. And as I said, we haven't had many Ballon d'Or nominees in the West Ham team. Can't remember the last one, but yeah, Payet. Well, I think it was that season he was the 13th best player in the world or something like that. Very unusual for us, and also starring in the Euros that year as well. Again, very unusual for an international star to be playing for West Ham, not one of the top four.
Right.
So I put Dimmy in. Okay, let's go the other wing. Let's go on the right wing. Who have we got on the right wing then, Ian?
Alan Devonshire.
Yep.
I mean, I think he played more on the left, didn't he? But I think he's one of those players that, frankly, it doesn't matter where you put him. He would play really well. Again, I didn't see him play very often, but I have seen a lot of footage of him. And again, he just had that silky ability to just glide past a player with no effort whatsoever. He was never the same after he came back from his injury. But it's a bit like Lanzini, isn't it? I mean, he's another player that possibly still has the potential to be a West Ham great, but you just think he's never quite been the same since he came back from that injury.
Yeah.
I think Alan Devonshire was one of those years and became one of the best players in the country. And how he didn't get more than, did he get 2 England caps, something like that?
I think so. Sure.
I mean, I can't remember who he was up against at that time, but they must have been bloody good players to keep him out of the side.
Well, it's the same as Billy Bonds, wasn't it? You know, how did Billy Bonds, never played for England, and Julian, so yeah, no, Dev, great shout. Yeah, as you said, he'd doesn't matter where you play him, he'd just drift, and that's something which I think we've lost in the modern game, is that sort of free role player. You just we don't have that anymore. It's like it has to be like a left-footed player who plays on the right or right.
But in a way, it's weird, isn't it? Because most teams now just play with one striker, so you would have thought that would leave more space for somebody to have that free role. But I mean, to my mind, Felipe Anderson, the only way he's ever going to work out for West Ham is if he does have that free role. But at the moment, Lanzini seems to have got that, and I suspect that Jared Bowen is the other one that he looks to be somebody who, if you gave him a free role, but I mean, we've only seen 2 or 3 games from him, but I'm really impressed by him.
Oh yeah. I have, when we signed him, it was the same level of excitement I had when we signed Dean Ashton, because it's like that sort of young English championship player who is just going to be mustard.
I was excited because my producer at LBC is a Hull City fan, and he'd always been raving about him. And he said, "I don't understand why this guy hasn't been signed by a Premier League side." So when the rumours started about West Ham, he showed me all sorts of videos about him, and I thought, well, he looks the real deal. And there are these players in the lower leagues. If only we'd take a few more risks on them. And that's the only thing I mean, I didn't want David Moyes to come back, but I do think that Moyes will start looking at more English players, and I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, there's loads. I mean, Brentford have got a couple of really good strikers, and Ollie Watkins and stuff, and people like that would be great. Yeah. Right, okay. Let's put Dev on the right. Let's go for or centre mids, or who on the left, doesn't really matter. Who's your first centre mid player then, Iain?
Trevor Brooking, for obvious reasons. Do I need to explain more? Again, I didn't see him play many games live, but again, the just consummate West Ham player. If I say he was the Mark Noble of his day, I mean that as a compliment, in the sense that he never left West Ham. He never really showed. I think there was one point where he nearly went to, was it Derby County? I think
something like
that.
Brian
Clough.
Yeah, Cloughie.
It was more because he didn't feel the club wanted him, but I mean that didn't happen, and he stayed, as we know. And I think he probably retired a couple of years too early. He could have gone on a bit longer, but he's a real perfectionist. Again, somebody who, to look at him, you wouldn't think really was a footballer. No. Didn't have the particularly athletic body, but again, like Devonshire, he could glide past people with no effort whatsoever. He was never going to win many prizes for his tackling, but so what? There aren't many players that have got every single attribute to their game. But if you picked, if you said who was the West Ham player of the 1970s, even the first half of the 1980s, I mean, he would probably be it, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah,
well, if he did 75 to 85, he would be that player.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, I think someone, I can't remember who it was, like Phil Whelans or Jim Grant or someone said, could you imagine Brooking now? Because obviously he was playing on bogs of pitches and these bowling greens, pitches now, it would have been, he was ahead of his time in that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, who's Brooking going to partner in the midfield then?
Well, this is a player I would want to have a free role. And again, I can't believe anybody would leave this guy out of a team, Paolo Di Canio, who is the best player that I have ever seen play for West Ham, without a shadow of a doubt. And he was an entertainer. He wasn't just a footballer, he was an entertainer. And I would have loved to have seen him manage West Ham in some ways. In other ways, I'd be horrified if he did. I remember when he went to Swindon, a good friend of mine is a Swindon supporter. And I mean, he raved about him because he did a brilliant job at Swindon, but then kind of got too big for his boots. And then he went to Sunderland, that didn't work out. And I mean, he will never manage West Ham now. I know that. But he gave us such memories. And one main memory was that goal, that wonderful sort of goal that he scored against Wimbledon at Upton Park, where the ball came in from the right from Trevor Sinclair, and he just like jumped and hit it in on the volley with his right foot. Sadly, I was in the Blackwall Tunnel at the time because there was a bad accident, and so I never saw that live, which I'm still absolutely gutted about.
Oh, no.
But that I mean, it goes back to the matches I remember, which I forgot to mention this one at the beginning, the 5-4 victory against Bradford City.
Yeah.
I mean, his performance in inverted commas in that match had to be seen. He believed, but I absolutely loved him. Yes, he's a bit of a fascist, but hey, we can forgive him that.
Slide over. But I mean, it's not. Someone else mentioned that goal. I think it was Dave Walker from Sex, Drugs and Colton Cole, and no, it wasn't. It was Benji. It was actually Benji Lanyard, I think, and actually. His dad or someone was coming up. He was coming up the stairs, and he turned round and he'd like missed the Canio volley, and he's like back towards it. And it's like, absolutely brilliant.
My story's better.
Your story's better in the Blackwall Tunnel. I love that one. That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay, it's nice. Okay, let's go for up front. Ian, who have we got up front for you?
I've got Tony Cottee. As one of them.
TC.
I didn't see much of him in his first incarnation. His second incarnation obviously wasn't quite as impressive, but again, he was just one of those people that you had confidence would score a goal. Yeah. And although his record wasn't prolific when he came back, it wasn't actually that bad. So he would definitely be one of them.
Yeah, I agree.
The other one would be Dean Ashton. And I that's one of the great what might have beens, Dean Ashton. If he hadn't got that injury playing for England, I was in the Good Morning Britain green room with Sean Wright Phillips a couple of months ago, and I mean, a lovely guy, and I just couldn't bring myself to mention it, but I so wanted to, because Dean Ashton on form, and if you think about. And I don't think he played many times with Craig Bellamy. They were bought to play together.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times they played together, but I think it was in single figures. But they just seemed to click. And both of them were natural goal scorers. And they complemented each other. Dean Ashton could score spectacular goals, but he could also he was also got a lot of tap-ins as well. And Craig Bellamy is a very, very different style of player. Somebody that I don't think was very popular with most of his teammates. But Dean Ashton, I mean, if he had been, I just wonder how often when he goes to bed at night, does he think to himself, what might have been? He had a great career, but
it could have been there.
So of all the strikers, I mean, we've never really had prolific goal scorers, have we? If you think back, going back to, I mean, you'd have to go back to the days of Pop Robson for us to have a regular 20, 25 goal a season striker. But Dean Ashton was the nearest I think we got. I mean, obviously Cottee and McAvenny in the mid 1980s had that, but that was 2 seasons. Pop Robson did it over 4 or 5 seasons. We haven't really had anyone since the 70s and 80s that you could be guaranteed to get 15, 20 goals out of.
No, I agree totally, absolutely, totally. And then Ashton was in mind because I thought he was brilliant when he played for us. And as you said, it would have been him and Rooney up front, partnering England. Yeah. Maybe Dino wouldn't have been around for many more seasons if he wasn't injured. He didn't get injured with us because he might have moved on.
He was a heavy boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a big lad.
I think players like that are probably always prone to get more serious injuries. But it was just such a shame. And when we signed Sebastien Haller, I thought he's going to be another Dean Ashton in the way that he's a big guy as well. And he got off to a really good start, but again, he's somebody that if you buy a striker like that, you've got to play to their strengths.
Agreed,
His strength is when he has someone playing alongside him. And when he has had someone playing alongside him, he's come to life again.
Yeah,
but I think they've really got to think about what they want to
it's
do.
the last couple of games.
He's a quality.
Definitely. Sorry, carry on. Yeah, so it's the last couple of games. Definitely, when he had Antonio with him, it was remarkable in terms of how better he was playing.
Yeah, no, he's another one of my favourites, Antonio. Yeah, I just think what a player. No one ever knows what he's going to do next. I'm not sure he does, but he scares the shit out of the opposition, and I love that. And the team is never quite the same when he's not in it.
No, there's that injection of pace that he brings, which I can't think of anyone for a long time who's done that.
I would put him in a team above Anderson. I would put him in a team above Lanzini. He would be one of the first players on the team sheet for me. But again, he's another one that I'm not sure is massively popular with his teammates.
Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, Ian, that's a lovely team, and it's been absolutely great chatting to you. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been really fun. And so you've got Greeno in goal, we've got Julian, Alvin, Bonzo, Sebastian Schemmel, Payet, Di Canio, Brookin, Dev, Cotti, and Ashton up front. Oh, in their prime, that would definitely do a job. That would do a job.
I think they would.
That would pay for my season ticket. I'd go and see them, that's for sure. It's been absolutely brilliant, Ian. And obviously, thanks everyone for watching as well. Obviously, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Obviously, Ian's on LBC every Monday to Thursday, 7 till 10.
Monday to Thursday, 7 till 10, yeah.
There we go. I've done my research. Very good. And until next time, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Cheers.